I'm beautiful. You're all beautiful. Everybody's beautiful today. Because, hey, guess what? It's time for another episode of Retail Therapy. I'm Blake Morse, co-editor-in-chief at Shacknews.com. And today I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Greg Burkleton Burke, head of video production, video producer, swell fella, and fellow Mohawk buddy, Greg Burkleton Burke. Hey, so good to see you. And then, of course, the suave, the enigmatic, the mysterious, the aloof, but the always coy Rodney Condus Jr., host of Wide World of Electronic Sports, and all-around swell fella.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Very happy to be here. I'm very happy to nerd out with my pals.
Nice. And, let's see. We have a very special guest today. Rod, I'm going to let you introduce Adam since you guys are buddies. Wow.
Okay, so on today's episode, I know there's a lot of us at Shack News that love Star Wars, so the minute I went back home to Nebraska, I thought, how do we get somebody into Star Wars on the show? And the first person that came to mind is my good friend Adam Vincent Turner, aka Crazy Black Man 108. Adam, how you feeling, man? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty great, man. I'm really happy, to be here and to get ready to talk some Star Wars stuff to you guys, because Star Wars is the one thing that I can talk for hours about and not lose any sort of enjoyment.
Well, that's good, because that's basically all we do here on this show. We talk about the things that we love, and we bring on people that are passionate about it to just kind of talk about what they love about that particular thing and why they love it. And, of course, we got to show off all the cool stuff that we have in our collections. Greg, are you going to be able to show that thing off that you showed me earlier?
It's like in the hallway, and the thing's like 5x5. So I just sent you the picture for that reason, because I can't pull it into my office.
So I have to pull up the picture.
Yeah, you have to pull up the picture when the time comes.
Greg, you bastard, man. Yeah, here. I'm gonna grab that now while we're getting things going.
Okay.
So yeah, Adam, tell us a little bit about what got you into Star Wars and like how your fandom started.
So, I used to tell this story and say, I was 3 years old, my dad introduced me to Star Wars, but I started doing some of the math, and it was more when I was like 2 or 1, when my father first showed me the original trilogy of films, and he originally showed them to me with the hope that it would inspire some level of like creativity within myself, and it worked out, I think, decently well, because as a very young child, I was like, oh, this is awesome, like, what can I do that would allow me to do something like this? My dad's like, well, you could become like a filmmaker, become a film director, and so that's been like my life path and my life goal, and I've continued to develop and want to learn more stuff with video production. That's what I went to school for, and it's kind of where I've continued to grow and hope to continue to grow in terms of like professional career wise and things like that. But then my relationship with Star Wars as a whole it's continued to stay very tightly woven into my life. My dad helped me collect like the action figures from Hasbro over the years, collect comics, whether it was with the original some of the original Marvel run from the 70s, or if it's the Dark Horse line of stuff, the current Marvel stuff now. I wasn't a big reader when I was younger, but my grandmother really wanted me to read, and she was like, I know what I can do to get him to read. There's Star Wars books, Adam. I was like, now you're talking my language. So then I started reading Star Wars novels and stuff like that. So there's people now that come into the fandom that want to read the Legends, as they titled it now, novels. I had the benefit of I read all those as I was growing up, so now I just keep up with the current canon of like new stuff that comes out. So Star Wars is very deeply tied into me. I think one of the things I've always loved about Star Wars too is that it's so good at, I think, creating these stories and taking that the stereotypical like hero's journey, but making it so widely appealing. And really, I think George and his original creations of things was really able to just really hone in on what makes those type of storytelling so powerful and so strong. But what has made it be able to last through multiple generations of fans and continue to last till this day, and it's something I just still love about it.
Yeah, because
Go ahead, Rod. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, the crazy thing about Star Wars, like when I think of like a lot of the other fandoms that are out there, like Lord of the Rings, which is existed for a very, very long time, and or even all the way back into like the Hobbit series. So I know those are very heavily intertwined, or like, like even Game of Thrones. Like Star Wars is technically a bit of a newer one, even though it's been around for, like you said, 40 years, 40 plus probably at this point. Yeah, it's kind of a still newer fandom that's kind of transcended the last so many generations of like boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Zoomers. Like there's something in there for everybody.
I find that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. You take it, man. You're the guest.
I was gonna say, I find that Star Wars has been able to do that because George Lucas, when you took the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, he was really big about telling a generational story with this one central family. And Disney, I think, tried to do something similar with that, with making the sequel trilogy of films, where they're telling this generational story. But the thing is that every time that he's gone about telling the story, there's been a gap of time in between when the last generation of stories was told. And so I think that's what's been able to help it live, is that it kind of redefines itself for a new generation while still having a lot of things that are very intrinsic to the cores and the mythos of Star Wars. And in some ways that helps it grow and become a new thing, which is kind of what the prequels I think helped to do. But even where George, I think, has the ability to look at his own storytelling and what he wanted to do, like the Clone Wars TV show, which came out about 3 years after the films had wrapped up initially back in 2005, and being able to tell this short formed, like, animated stories that could really reach the masses, because on a serial format, which goes back to the things that he wanted to do initially, like with the Flash Gordon inspirations and stuff like that, and just really find a way to still hone in on storytelling that's important to people. Because when you watch that stuff now, there's a lot of times I think people, you growing up, like I guess the kids and stuff, like I remember like the politics stories, people like, I don't care about this politics, where's my lightsaber fight, where's this sort of thing. But when you go back now, you watch, sometimes like the Clone Wars has like some 2 or 3 episode arcs where it's nothing but politics, but it's kind of very intriguing because you care about that universe and about the world building. Like, Rod, you speak about Game of Thrones. I got a big buddy that his biggest reason why he had issues with the show post, I think, season 5 was because he felt like the politics were no longer in line with what George R.R. Martin had written in his novels. And he felt that was so intrinsic to the storytelling of the world that when you lose that, it's like, oh dang. And that's something too, like with Star Wars, I think now, where it's like, I talked to some friends that I know growing up hated the prequels, and they were a little bit older than me, because my generation is supposed to like have grown up on the prequels, but I grew up on the original trilogy, so I'm a little bit like, nah, it's a little bit different. But those guys, when they watch the sequel trilogy, they're like, where's the galactic politics in this? Like, this doesn't make sense in some ways on a galactic scale. And I just found that, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with them, but I just found that interesting that, again, like you said, there's something about the way the stories are so well crafted and touch on different facets of life that it makes it intriguing and reach the masses in many different ways, and has many different like inroads for you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it feels like too with Star Wars, and I've seen them in bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure I've seen them all, just not in sequential order. If you can technically even at this point watch them in a sequential order, because the timeline's all over the place. But I guess if you can follow Marvel, you can follow Star Wars. There's no excuse. But so do some of the films take place in actual real-time year gaps? Like, for instance, like Unbreakable split in Glass. Like Unbreakable, happened 20-year gap, then Split happened, then Glass? Or does it kind of take place in its own secluded timeline?
Just to make sure I'm understanding your question correctly, when you're saying like the time gaps in, because I forget with that Glass like universe, you're saying in terms of the actual making of the stories from like a real world production standpoint, or just in the universe time? Oh, okay. So like, yeah, I mean, initially the original trilogy is 4, 5, and 6 initially take place during the Galactic Civil War period of time, which because to reference it for like fandom, usually they used to use a standard notation of before the Battle of Yavin or after the Battle of Yavin, which was related to the battle that takes place at the end of the original and fourth Star Wars film. So those stories take place in that period of time. But if you go to like the prequel trilogy, Episode 1 is like 20. It's about like 40 years before A New Hope. And so you go through there, and those films were made, you know, Return of the Jedi came out in 83 and Phantom Menace came out in 1999. But they are prequels to those original 3 films, so then they go backwards. And then the sequel trilogy came out starting in 2015, and it had been 10 years since the prior Star Wars film had been made with Revenge of the Sith in 2005, or you could say 2008 when the Clone Wars came out, which we were actually just 2 days past the 14-year anniversary of that movie being released, which blows my mind. The sequel trilogy of films takes place 30 years after Return of the Jedi, which is the one that came out in 83. And so there's a wide gap there where, like, you know, Marvel didn't really necessarily start doing that in their films, in the MCU at least, until Captain Marvel, right? That was the first big one that went backwards in the timeline, but then brought you up to current points. The Star Wars films have always kind of jumped around in terms of where the storytelling is at, but within the trilogies themselves, the prequel trilogy is the most interesting, I think, in terms of the in-universe time differences, because between 1 and 2 there's like a 10-year time jump, and then between 2 and 3 there's like a 3-year time jump. And I think for storytelling purposes at least, that creates a real plethora of options in terms of how you can grow those characters between points, you know, A and B, and has allowed them to be more multimedia storytelling, whether that's through, you know, let's say before the Disney days of, you know, through the books, comics, video games, they tried very hard to have an interconnected canon, and they're still trying to do that really now, but it's all interesting how they kind of level those things out.
Yeah. So how do you feel about all the retconning? Because, like, there was so much craziness that was canonical, and so many people that have, like, you know, loved the original canon for so many years. Like, what did you think of that?
So I remember initially, it was 2012. I remember getting the text that George sold it to Disney. I was like, that's crazy. Like, they're making a 7, 8, and 9. I'm like, that's also crazy. Okay. But there's these novels that I very much love, like the Thrawn trilogy. I controversially like the Jedi Academy trilogy, which is another trilogy of books that takes place after the Thrawn trilogy. I like the characters of, you know, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Mara Jade, spoiler for Legends things, but Mara Jade Skywalker, because she eventually ends up getting married to Luke. Like, I love those characters. The Han and Leia in Legends had twins, and then they had a third kid as well that they named Anakin. These characters lived these lives. Some of characters died. Chewbacca ends up dying because a moon gets dropped
by
on
a moon.
him.
That is so brilliant. How do they retcon that?
Like, all those things, like, I when they retconned them, you know, I felt some type of way about it, because initially I was like, well, where do they want to go with this storytelling? Because part of me was like, well, I understand that you can't assume people have, like, read everything. And so I was like, well, you could jump ahead to a certain point. Like, controversially, so I kind of was like, I think it'd be interesting if you are going to retcon anything, retcon everything post New Jedi Order, which is about 25 years post Return of the Jedi. I thought that could be kind of interesting. But then they did the whole retcon sweep. The one thing I will say that it created that I think made it super easy to be excited about, in my opinion, was I was like, I have no clue where this is going to go. I have no clue what's happening. I have no clue about these characters, what happened between points A and point B. And I was kind of excited to see, okay, well, what are they going to do, and how are they going to bring these new elements through? As the films were released, I'm not certain I think it was all worth it. But I kind of felt like it was something that needed to be done, because on one of my YouTube channels years ago, and it may have even been my current one, Crazy Black and 108, I did a video back when the Clone Wars TV series was coming out, before Lucas had even sold it, talking about the fact that, like, when Attack of the Clones initially came out, and then to Revenge of the Sith's release, they did this thing called the Clone Wars Multimedia Project, where they had, books, novels, comics, books and novels are the same thing, junior novelizations, let's put it like that. And then you had the Genndy Tartakovsky TV series that was on Cartoon Network, that was initially these short 5-minute episodes, that then for the final, 5 episodes were 15-minute episodes. All that timeline of stuff, then with the 2008 Clone Wars show, I was looking at it like that, Winnie the Pooh meme, where he's trying to look at the paper like, how's this all work out? Because it just was not, you had to very much go, okay, well, how do you make these things work within the timeline? Because you had a novel that came out in 2008 saying Anakin became a Jedi Knight 2 weeks into the Clone Wars, and you're like, well, there's a comic book that came out in 2003 that said that he was on this one planet for 3 months. And part of that whole thread of that comic line was Anakin was upset about still being a Padawan. So somewhat of a clean slate needed to be done. And what's been interesting since, I guess it's almost been 10 years now since that deal happened. It's been interesting to see what things they pull back into canon and how well they either pull it back in and execute it better than it was before. Because there's some things like if anyone knows or has heard or read the novel Crystal Star, do not need that book.
No,
horrible, in my opinion.
We don't need it.
It was a book that was in the Legends continuity that I just didn't. I couldn't. It wasn't a good novel. Let's just put it that way. A lot of weird things happening, but that's what you would get with the old Legends continuity. You would get some weird things, and you'd get a lot of cool stuff though too. And it was weeding through, the stuff and finding what you like and what you could enjoy.
I definitely feel that. I think, waiting so many years to kind of let technology kind of catch up with your fandom is really good too. Because think about Game of Thrones. Had that just only existed as a book and it just ended when it was supposed to end as a book series or whatever, and then it wasn't able to last long enough into the movie era. And I mean, I guess you can always dig up an old narrative, an old story from somewhere, then put it on TV or put it on a streaming service. But I think it always hits a little bit different when there's other ways to consume the media outside of just the streaming service or the movie, like what Disney and really Star Wars and Marvel are kind of leading the pack in right now. There are comics that are canon. And then, of course, the actual novels themselves. I just found out, not to change the subject, but there's a whole comic book series for what happened to the leader after the 2008 Incredible Hulk. He still exists, of course. Obviously, he needs to be addressed. And it's yeah, it was in the comic. So if you just missed it, then you missed it. I'm 14 years later. Oops. I just thought the dude died or that they just got rid of him because Edward Norton and Marvel. But the fact that there's other ways for people to consume that media, I think is so awesome.
Yeah, Star Wars was really big initially, I think, with George Lucas always was pushing, I think, the boundaries of storytelling in many ways. I mean, there's, when you look at the history of how many things that, him creating Star Wars and the financial gain it allowed him, which then allowed him to be able to push forward the medium and the art form, was really interesting, because I think Star Wars was one of the first franchises to where George was very much this is my canon, my movies are my canon, and everything else, there's tiers to it. But even still within those tier systems, it was that every game, comic book, novel, everything was supposed to tie together.
So was it? I'm sorry, no, just real quick. Wasn't there 2 writers? It was a man and a woman, right? Or am I tripping?
So George's, I know that George's wife, his original wife, helped him edit the first Star Wars film, which made a lot of big differences to it. George initially, I know, wrote multiple, this big, massive story that he thought was going to be in 12 parts, but then because of funding that this 20th Century Fox was able to do, and how he saw that was going, he's I think I'm just going to condense this story maybe into making it just one film, which is there's a lot of people that argue that the original The Star Wars could have just been it, that he didn't need to make more stories to that, but that it was crafted in such a way that he was clever that the fact that it did do so well, he was able to go and create more. But I'm not the woman part outside of his Marcy Lucas. I can't remember her first name. Outside of her connection with it. I don't exactly remember there was a female writer involved with the original full screenplay.
So what people don't remember too is that like George, like he's not like, I might get crucified with this, but he's not like a good writer or a director. He's more of a tech junkie. Like he's more of like an innovator. Like the way he filmed it, the techniques he used, the special effects he used were all state of the art, brand new techniques no one had done before. And he was creating ILM while he was making the Star Wars movies, which is partly why he didn't touch the second or third movie from a director standpoint, because he was busy doing that. And like it shows too in the prequels. I know there's people who love the prequels, people who hate them, but like George Lucas is not a great screenwriter. Like you can look at the dialogue that's written in the prequels, it's terrible. Like the overarching story is interesting, but like the dialogue between characters is so bad. Like when I took a screenwriting class, they said be careful is like a big no-no, and they say that like 27 times in the prequels. Be careful. It's like a big no. You don't do that in a movie, supposedly. So,
yeah, like
yeah.
No, you're spot on. Like the thing with George is the biggest issue in the prequel trilogy was he decided to write, produce, and direct. And anyone knows that if as a creative, I don't care how talented you are, when you decide to do all three of those things, and especially when you then decide to like surround yourself with people who aren't going to really question you too much on what you're doing, you're not going to be able to get as good of a product as you could if you had people that were assuming different roles and that you were able to kind of bounce some things off of. And so yeah, George just, I mean, I enjoy the prequels still myself, and I think meme culture and sometimes a little bit revisionist history makes people like the prequels a lot more than what I think they're sometimes earned in some ways. I do like them, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's a lot of the writing in there that's just kind of crazy, which is, again, like you just said, Rye, 5 and 6, he didn't write those. He oversaw like what Lawrence Kasdan wrote for you know, like Empire and stuff, but Irvin Kershner was a fantastic director, is why Empire is so good as it is. But George did the research to help, you know, with the writing, to think about, you know, crafting stuff like more deeply with the Force and Yoda and all of its Christian or Buddhist influences that do come into it, you know. But
Denny had a question in the chat. He asked thoughts on High Republic content so far, like the direction is going.
High Republic content so far, I really have only made it through 2 of the first novels in that first wave. So I made it through Lie of the Jedi by Charles Soule, who he's been doing a lot of Star Wars storytelling across the Marvel comic lines as well. And I got through, I think, is the Mission to Disaster. There's 3, basically with the High Republic has been coming out, they've released a like adult novel, which is from Del Rey, and then they've released 2 like more young reader type novels. And so I'm reading Into the Dark, and what I've thought so far of what I've been reading is it's very interesting and cool to see this new era of Star Wars storytelling, and to see the Jedi at like the height of their powers in the sense, but also see a Jedi Order that's very much not no, I'm not gonna say it like that. See the Jedi when they're just not like total, just kind of just very dogmatic, let's put it that way. And you know, you see the thing about the High Republic era is that like a Jedi Knight like Anakin Skywalker probably would have thrived and maybe would have never turned to the dark side if he was in a Jedi Order that was like the one during the High Republic era, because their view on attachments, their view on like having emotions and feelings, yeah, it's not so just like out of pocket. It's like, from what I've read so far, I've really enjoyed it. I'm trying to get myself further along, but like with my, between like all the different things I'm trying to do, I just don't make enough time to read as much as I do anymore. Like I have all the current canon novels, and I have 3 of them sitting right here in front of me currently, but they're...
Which ones you got? Show them off real quick. Which ones you got?
The most recent ones I have right now is Brotherhood, which this is a novel that takes place between episodes 2 and 3. This is like very, like maybe like a month or 2 after Attack of the Clones, I think. That came out back in May. I have Shadow of the Sith, which this one's the thickest one here, but this novel takes place between episodes 6 and 7, and mainly has a lot of stuff to tie into what happens in the Rise of Skywalker, with finding out, you know, Rey's lineage and parentage, and like all that stuff and fall with that, and it tells there's a story in the Rise of Skywalker about like how Luke and Lando went on this adventure. Well, this is said adventure that they went on together. And then this book just came out yesterday. It's called The Princess and the Scoundrel, and this is the new canon story of how Han and Leia end up getting married. If you read back in the Legends days, there was 3 different like weddings for Han and Leia. There was Courtship of Princess Leia, which I personally love that book because that book it was the first one to introduce Dathomir and the Night Sisters. So if anyone likes those elements of Star Wars, that originated from that book. There was another book called Tatooine Ghost, which Troy Denning writing hit or miss, but that was another novel. And then there was some junior novels that were kind of like had their marriage in it as well too. But at least in this novel, I know Luke was actually at the wedding, which is nice because I feel like Luke would want to be at his sister's wedding, and it's one of those old storytellings. They didn't have that, but
that cover looks like a drugstore romance novel cover.
I was gonna say it does. Like
yeah,
I was telling,
I'm surprised they don't have Fabio there instead of Harrison Ford.
No, I mean you're exactly spot on. Even like when you read like the back text of it, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be different. But I consume Star Wars media like it's gas for a car. Like I need it everywhere I go. I want to know everything that's going on and stuff.
Like, does it get body like those novels?
Well,
does Han shoot first?
Well, from what I know so far, I don't think so. But I will say is what's been interesting is that there's been some of like the I keep referring to them in the wrong proper like nomenclature, but there's like the more young adult novels. The young adult novels have had like sex scenes in them, which is interesting because people have been like the supposed to be like adult novels don't have that, but the young adult ones do. And I know there's been some outcry against that because there was a book that came out at the start of when The Force Awakens was coming out in 2015 called I think Lost Stars, and that has like a sex scene in it. I think even like there was a novel that came out for Rogue One about Jen Erso that maybe does too. But yeah, I don't know yet for Princess and the Scoundrel. I have to break into it to find out.
Yeah, do you when you're consuming this content, I know we talked about this like pre-expo, like just kind of like where our fandom goes and how far it actually goes before we're like, okay, like what's going on here? But do you consume it first and then make a detailed assessment, or do you like kind of consume it halfway and you're kind of like, I know where this is going, it's time for me to dip out? Or are there just some projects where you're just like, yeah, I don't need to see the R2-D2 solo arc, like I'm out of here? It's like, how does it go for you?
So for myself, I feel like I like to consume it all the way through before I make too much of a judgment on it. I think especially too after like my time in college and like becoming like looking at the processes that people go through and the creation of things, I try to really look at stuff more, and I don't find myself as much like when I was younger. I think I would go and like bash something if I really disliked it, but I find myself now more being inclined to not so much bash as to more be like, this wasn't for me. I think someone else maybe enjoyed it, but definitely wasn't for me, and I can tell you why it wasn't for me. And then if in some situations, if I care enough, I could tell you what I would do differently. But for the most part, I kind of just take it in. And when it comes to like Star Wars media, I think the only things that have come out that I have not consumed is I've not watched the Lego Freemaker Adventures, which apparently there's broad strokes elements of that stuff that is canon. I haven't watched that. That's on Disney Plus, I think, still currently. And then Disney Plus recently added the original Star Wars Droids TV show from like I think it was the late 80s, and the Ewoks TV show. And I've seen some of the Droids TV show because there was a VHS that I used to love to get from Blockbuster that covered like 2 arcs where they condensed it into like a movie, and then they released it as a DVD back in 2006, and so I have that. I never saw the Ewoks one though, and I never saw the live action Ewoks movies either. And every now and then I'm like, do I want to watch this? And my mindset usually is no, No, I do not.
I loved the Ewok movies when I was a kid. That was like I'm like first generation Star Wars or whatever you call it, maybe second generation, because I was born in '81, so like grown up with Star Wars. Yeah, dealt with the prequels in a different way than a lot of my younger friends did. And now I'm just old enough to not care about the recent trilogy. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Like that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like I too old to argue about it. But yeah, I've still got some of the figures from when I was a kid. I grabbed some of them. So
is it time to start showing off the goods, Blake?
Oh man, this show is all about showing off the goods. First off, my Admiral Akbar figure.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Ooh. This is like Admiral Akbar, one of my favorite characters. One of my bands has a Star Wars song called "Trap." I do my best. I'm like, "It's a trap" at the end of it.
I like that. That's very spot on.
I'll send you a link to the tune. I think you'll appreciate it. One of my other favorite characters from the original trilogy, my original Bib Fortuna here.
Ooh, cool.
Oh man, I have no idea how I still have this. I'm like, I had like the Jabba set up, and like he had like the little hookah and stuff like that, and the Salacious Crumb, and like the like little cage underneath him would flip open, and you could like throw figures in there. And then I also had the Rancor figure. The Rancor broke because it was it was one of those things like it had an action thing, and the arms and the band broke, so the arms like fell off of it. It was so cool. Like one of my favorite things when I was a kid. This guy, the little keyboard player from Max Rebo. Yeah, man. I don't have the keyboard anymore. I don't know where it went. I'm like, damn it.
No, he plays in a band, right? Is that who that dude is?
Yeah, he's rocks with sliced noodles, man.
That's who I want to be.
I think this is a Metroid. It might be one from
the droid in Jabba's palace.
The torture one.
Yes.
Like the one that's like, oh, you're gonna go over there and get fucked up. So yeah.
Does that mean that Captain Neo was canon in Star Wars? Does that mean? Is that what that means? Is that the connection?
I think so. Maybe Greg. They probably retconned that. I wouldn't be surprised if Captain EO got retconned for a number of reasons we don't need to go into right now. And then this little thing. This is a little like Hoth. Like, so there were these play sets, right? Mm-hmm. And they would come with these little metal figures. And like I had the little Hoth play set. And it was freaking awesome. Unfortunately, like a lot of my toys got stolen when I was a kid. I don't have like a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I still got those. And then Adam, I don't know if you're gonna dig this or not, but I have a shit ton of stuff from the prequels. Like here we got a fucking.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I have that same thing downstairs in my basement currently.
Nice. By the way, I'm trying to sell this before I move. No, anyone.
Oh, Godspeed. I mean, They made too many. That was the unfortunate thing. When I saw all the Star Wars 70 stuff selling for thousands of dollars, I started to buy all the re-releases from the prequels and stuff that they made, but they're worthless because they made so many.
Well, it really depends on what you get, like, and how hard it is to come by. Little Tatooine droid hunter set.
I love that set because I loved the escape pod.
Yeah.
That thing was, I just found that so cool because I love like recreating the reasons, like, oh, they gotta escape from the ship, so they're leaving the escape pod for whatever reason. I love that.
Yeah, this is like, alright, here we go. Yeah, I would buy like stupid Captain Typho. I don't know.
Yep.
Who the hell wants a Captain Typho figure? I don't know.
I would like one. I don't have any Star Wars toys anymore. I had all types of cool stuff.
Rod, I'll cut you a deal, buddy.
Okay.
I'll cut you a deal. You want all my Star Wars toys?
I'll give you $3.
$3?
$3. That's all I can afford.
Well, I'll tell you what. You like get like times that by 1,000. We'll talk. Of course, every kid wants the Orn-free Ta figure, right?
You know, it's funny because I had someone just recently mention like, we haven't had an Orn-free Ta like forever. When are they gonna update him? And I'm like, guys, Hasbro is not gonna update him anytime soon. I don't care if he was in the most like recent animated show. They're not doing it.
Well, man, if you want that figure, I know a guy. Of course, an Anakin Skywalker dual lightsabers here.
I remember that figure as well too. I think are the lightsabers in that one metal? Are their hilts metal? Does it look like it?
Yeah, well, they're not made of metal. Oh, maybe they're shiny.
Yeah, so those ones I think they're metal because they're magnetized to his hands, if I'm not mistaken. So that when you would do the action feature for him, it wouldn't like drop the lightsabers. In theory.
Weapon is it's force attracted. It says here. It's not magnets, it's force attraction.
Right. You're absolutely right, my fault.
The lightsabers are just attracted to his hands. They're like, hey, I think I like what I see here. Oh, here we go. Tebow. Ewok figures, what I'm all about.
My mom used to like want to take from my Star Wars collection stuff my dad would give me. Anytime I got Ewoks, she wanted to put them in like her choreo that were like she had collected these like different figurines and stuff, and I used to always be like, but I need my Ewoks. I need them.
All right, well all right, this the backing came off of this one, but we got Padme Amidala in her gladiator arena outfit. Arena escape, they call it. But we all know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, man. I just happened to be, in the process of packing up my life and moving to another state. So I found this box recently. And of course you need a Clone Trooper Republic Gunship Pilot Edition.
Hey, that.
I
love it. There's the Kmart sticker on it too. I love that.
Dude, I got some ones from KB as well on some of these.
My god.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Oh my.
The whistling's just part of the song. Austin, do you want me to skip this song, Austin? Do you not like it? Mace Windu. I got a few Mace Windus in here. Because Mace Windu, just a big Samuel L. Jackson fan to begin with, but I love that purple lightsaber.
Same.
As well. So you gotta have, like, basically I saw a Mace Windu figure at the time when I bought it. Oh, man, the box is all banged up, but this is like an old, the Comtech edition, R2-D2.
That R2-D2 I've wanted, like, I remember every time we would go to my comic book shop here in town, I'd try to get my dad to give me that R2-D2 figure, even though I had tons of other R2s, because I liked that it came with the Leia hologram.
Do you not, what'd you say?
I said I liked that one a lot when I was a kid, because I always wanted my dad to get that one for me, because I liked that it came with the Leia hologram piece to it as well, too.
Yeah, the Leia's right there. That's what I liked about it as well. That's why I bought it. I don't know, I just like, I opened most of my toys, but for some reason, like, I would just buy these and stick them on the wall in the, like, thing, because I didn't have a shelf space, and they just kind of lived behind my door. A couple of, definitely dead Jedi Padawans. They were probably murdered by Anakin, as you recall.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Press F for these dead Padawans. Ashla and Jempa.
Mm-hmm.
Both dead. Slaughtered.
Massacred by certain...
Oh, man. Yeah, this... I mean, we can keep going. Here's another Clone Trooper. He's just a red Clone Trooper. He's got a firing pod,
If I'm not mistaken, that one, they ended up doing variants of that same packaging, but they changed the color with each one. So they would have... There was a yellow one and a blue one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they have different ranks, the colors. Man. Yeah, if anyone else has stuff to show off, feel free.
I know Adam has a whole bunch of shit that
fancy dress ball Padme.
Oh, I think that Padme actually is worth a decent amount currently.
Oh, really?
Because I think so because they don't make very many Padmes anymore, and so the Padme fandom, really wants to try to find more of her. So
Whoa.
like ones that are hard to find, they seem to like people seem to like really want to try to search and hunt after.
Oh man.
You know why they didn't make a lot of Padmes in the 90s?
Tell me why.
Because they thought marketing does not mean marketing said that boys didn't want to play with girl action figures, so that's why they didn't make a lot. They made a lot more other stuff.
I have heard that. Oh yeah, he has this the Jedi communicator piece on his head too. There,
man, you know like all of these, man. The Jedi Starfighter pilot. Yeah.
My some people at first people are usually like, wow, it's cool, you know a lot of stuff. And then as they talk to me longer, they go and they're like, damn.
Not us here.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Royal Guard, the red guards. I always thought they were really cool in Return of the Jedi. I just really liked their outfits. So I bought one. That's about it. So do you have a lot of figures then, I'm guessing, Adam?
Yes. So I would have to send a picture probably for quick access to it, or switch over to my phone with Discord. But like in my basement, I pretty much have. I'm not gonna say it's complete, but I will say that if figures that came out from like the year 2002 until probably 2014, I probably have like almost all the 3 3/4 inch figures that they released.
Nice.
Dude. Oh my god. Yo,
Yoda.
definitely Discord mobile me. I want to see it.
Yeah. I
If
definitely.
you got some pics, you can send us. I'll get them pulled up.
Yeah, because I can definitely do it like that. But I can also, what I did is that recently I just got a lot of new stuff because I've been hunting for some new things. So I want to do some new reviews over things. So I have all that stuff kind of lined up over here with me so that I can like show you guys some of that, and then maybe in the middle of that I can kind of go and I can switch over here onto the other onto my phone to be able to show you guys some of the other stuff too. But I kind of, if you want here, I can start like some of these stuff here too.
Yeah, man. Let's I'm gonna pop you into the big screen here.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So most recently what I've been kind of getting is I'm on the hunt for some new. They have a line currently called the Vintage Collection, which is all the figures in like vintage style packaging. And they do this for new figures. They do this for like new stuff, whether it's like for the Mandalorian or the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. But they also do some repacks of stuff from prior points in time. And one of the cool things is Hasbro recently done this new thing with, I forget what the actual name they have for it, but the face paint and how they applied those the paints to the figures is done some new way digitally that works super well to make them more authentic and look more realistic. You don't have too many bug-eyed looking figures, thankfully so. And so like one of these things I'll show you with right now is this like a Yoda that's in the current line of Vintage Collection figures. So you can find this Yoda at maybe at Target right now if you're lucky. It's always, distribution's like a hit and miss thing, of course. Hasbro's been kind of it's been bad for years. If I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, it's been really hard. You're like hunting. I think this is across the the sphere with a lot of fandoms, but like going out to the store and hunting for figures where there's the joy in that. There's a bit of now where it's just like it's damn near impossible. I'd rather just buy like the shipment case, I get what I want, and kind of go from there. But like this is an example of like a newer figure from the Book of Boba Fett, Fennec Shan.
Oh,
and so you can see on this figure that she comes with accessories as well too. And this 3 3/4 inch line I think really has like gotten really good about like trying to provide some extra stuff along with your regular your regular things. This is like I talked about that 2003 Clone Wars series. So they recently were celebrating 50 years of Lucasfilm itself. and they've been going back and doing some re-releases that way. And so this card back is meant to show her from her animated style from that show, while also having the figure be more on that a little bit more vibrant color scheme. And they did the same thing with her master Luminara on Duel. These are two Jedi that initially first appear in Attack of the Clones, but then of course are in comics and shows, things like that. This is also Ayla Secura too that comes along with that as well too.
I had a quick question. So how much do like real life events kind of like factor in on the price and the rarity of certain items? Like in Pokemon, there's a couple like just use them as an example because it's the first one that's coming to mind. There's like a bunch of banned art. Well, I know you collect Yu-Gi-Oh as well, so there's banned arts that they have to go back and retouch, and of course the banned art is worth a lot of money. Now in Star Wars, there was the young woman, she said some dumb stuff a couple years ago, ended up getting booted out of the series. But the memorabilia and stuff that they did of her, does that go for significantly less now, or does it go for more?
The Cara Dune stuff goes for more now, because I don't know if we'll ever have a figure released in her likeness again.
Right.
Mainly because of the stuff that's happened, but also there's no new opportunities because her character's not going to be coming back. So like that affects pricing. But then sometimes it's things where like with this wave of figures that I currently have, these were Walmart exclusives. So you can only get these at Walmart. That sometimes will contribute to why the pricing goes up. But this wave had a set of clone troopers that fans have been wanting for a long time to be re-released and are done in this new like mold that they have. And they made it a Walmart exclusive, which means that in the casement, occasional shipment, you only get like maybe one or two of that clone trooper would be in a box that they unpackaged and put on the shelf. So that means it's super hard to try to find that figure still. And people love the army build. That's a huge thing for fans of like the clones and stuff like that. So there's a guy that I actually know that I work with, that I actually still work with currently at Finish Line when I work a shift there or two, that he is a big clone collector, and he constantly, every time I see him, he's complaining about like, but this isn't even really this character, and they didn't do this paint job well. But it's funny because he's complaining about all this stuff, but he's still like, I'm gonna buy it because if I don't buy it, I won't be able to get anything close. And talking about the Pokemon thing, I can kind of switch away from the vintage stuff to show some of these other things real quick, because this can kind of play into this. And honestly, I have some of these. So I do the thing where I try to buy doubles. I try to buy one to keep in the package, one to open.
Same.
I blame my dad for spoiling me, but I also like a part of me just goes like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like these have a packaging where it says launch edition, right? So this first wave of these figures or these vehicles are we'll have the packaging, we'll have it on there, so if I open it, it doesn't show anything to signify that. But you talk about rarity and hardness to find with some things. So like, for example, this is, so leave a little background on this line. It's called the Micro Galaxy Squadron line. And now this line of ships and vehicles,
those things
basically
are expensive. I saw one at Target the other day, and I was like, oh, that can't be much. And I scanned it. It was like, what, like $30 or something?
Oh my God.
This one is like, at least, I mean, it's still expensive. This is like $15-16. The Millennium Falcon, I think, is like $45-50, and like the Slave One, I think, is like $30. But like, these are meant to be like almost, I think, a spiritual successor to the old Action Fleet Micro Machine line of Star Wars vehicles. I have one of the old ones sitting here with me. This is one of the Millennium Falcon ones that I have when I was a kid. I still love this thing to death. I kept this actually in my office for a long time. And so yeah, it's meant to be a successor to this line, but the cool thing about this is that now this is the old Action Fleet size of it, but this new line is supposed to be all in scale with each other. So the Millennium Falcon now is this big. So that when you put this Falcon up next to an X-Wing, it's in the right scale and proportion. Or even like this is the Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. It's the right scale size to the Falcon and to other ships, which is pretty, I think is one of my favorite things about this line. And when it comes to again the finding things and making it hard to find for stuff. This line is doing a thing where they're having chase figures, kind of like how I think Funko does that with their pops, to where there's in every casement there's a chance that there will be a version of these vehicles that's slightly different. That's like a 1 in 5,000 or like a 1 in like 15,000. So like for this X-Wing, for example, this one comes with, a Luke and an R2, and Luke's in his X-Wing pilot jumpsuit. But there's a version of this that comes with a slightly more weathered X-Wing and comes with Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and R2, and it's meant to be like his appearance in The Mandalorian. There's a TIE Fighter variant that is Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter, Giancarlo Esposito, who plays that character, where his the TIE Fighter, I can show you here on the back because it will say on here Chase, where the TIE Fighter's wings come in like this, so it's a different model of TIE Fighter. But that's like a Chase one as well, and I think there's only 5,000 of them. So that's the thing where like those are going to be worth more and harder to find. And so you have to kind of go out the stores to look for it, or you go on eBay and pay a scalper's price, or whatever.
We're anti-scalpers here at Shacknews. Just putting that out there. We don't give in to scalpers. Okay, we do not negotiate.
Man,
look, I'm right there with you. Like, there's a comic book shop in town here in Omaha that I love to death, but I hate going there to buy anything besides comics because the prices are so exorbitant on things that they're really just going around. They have a guy that goes around and buys them up, and it's
Dragon's Lair.
I don't like to say names. I hear that they maybe do that, but there's a different place I'm thinking of. But
right.
In comparison, though, just for like context, there's a really great store down in like Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'll say their name, Toys from the Past, where the uptick in price is like $2 or $3 like markup. And so it's more of they mark it up because it's the convenience of you can go there, you can find the things, it's not as big of a hunt.
Yeah, that's not bad. Like, I collect a lot of vintage games, and if like the markup is only like between like $3 to $5, I'm usually like, okay. Yeah.
So like they're
like I'll support
fantastic.
a physical shop.
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm like
or local.
Yeah. It's like I would have paid probably more in shipping and handling. A lot of times. But I feel that. I want to show something off really quick that Greg has. Says the only thing he had to show off today. You guys are gonna have to look on the stream to see this. But Greg,
here we go.
You've got this framed piece of art that seems to be autographed by just about everybody here. Like, let's see. Let's take a look here. You've got. Is this autographed by Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill?
Yes.
And George Lucas?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And Yoda? Yoda signed it. That's so great. Or did Frank Oz sign it?
Yoda signed
it.
Who?
Frank Oz signed it.
That's cool. And Samuel L. Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
And
all the major players, yeah.
Darth Maul. Some guy. Oh, it even said George Lucas, Frank Oz, Ian McDermott, Ewan McGregor, and Samuel L. Jackson, Ray Park, Tamura Morrison, Jake Lloyd, Christopher Lee, Matthew Wood, along with Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, David Prowse, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Jeremy Bullock, Daniel Logan, Billy D. Williams, Peter Mayhew. Now, like, what's crazy, dude, this is so dope. Like, you got the voice of General Grievous. You even got the little annoying ass Anakin.
He's in jail right now, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
He for sure is.
So, I mean, like, several of these people are no longer with us, too.
This is my retirement. When all of them are passed on, this is my retirement.
Yeah.
Put it up at auction.
Yeah.
This is pretty killer right here, Greg. Where did you get this?
My dad bought it years ago, like 2007, like at a Star Trek convention. He got really hammered, and he was just like, my dad's a really charismatic guy, so he was walking around the booth just talking to people, and this one guy was like, he wanted $5K for it, and dad's like, that's too much. How about 2,400? He said, okay, and he's like, really? And so he just bought it, and then he had it in his office, and they didn't have room for it anymore. And then when I was moving out in like in 07, he's like, do you want to take it? I was like, sure. So I just took it, and it's been with me ever since.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool little piece of Star Wars memorabilia, man. Like,
I was really into Star Wars back during the prequels, and I was really, really into it. Like, we dressed up for the premiere and did all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
This was before it was cool, so everyone knows. We're getting thrown at us in line, waiting for Revenge of the Sith, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
good times.
To date, or I guess to age myself for how old you know I was. I remember I was in 2nd grade when Revenge of the Sith came out, because it came out on my last day of school.
Oh my god!
Babies, you're all babies, all of you.
I know.
Like,
my dad had gotten tickets for us to go to the midnight premiere of it, and I remember I was the coolest kid at school the next day because I had seen the new Star Wars film before anybody else. And everyone was just kind of like in shock. But I loved it. It was such an all. But the only thing that was bad about that as a kid, I remember we were at the very front row, so I'm sitting watching the movie, like this the whole time. But
oh yeah, especially when you're that little too. Like your neck is just like by the end of it in pain.
Exactly.
Hey, how do you know this is real?
Yeah, if you took this to those guys in Vegas, the guys who like Pawn Stars or whatever, what do you think they're gonna do?
So some of them have like the seal on them, and those are like official. I don't know if the seal's on the back. I've never opened it. It's like bolted down. So, but like honestly, like if it went to auction, whatever, people would look at it and have to analyze it and officiate it and all that good stuff. But like if it has that little sleeve, the Darth Maul has that little sticker on it. That means that it's certified. If it doesn't have the sticker, I mean, it could be fake. I don't know. I'd have to get it checked.
Because, I have this picture of C-3PO and R2-D2. I have it framed in like a very gaudy, like gold frame, actually. And man, is it up? It's actually, you know what? I can grab it. It's like right behind me. I'm gonna turn my camera off for just a second and go get this. Will you talk amongst yourselves? Maybe show off some. Do you have anything else to show off, Adam?
Or can we maybe do the social media shilling while you're grabbing that? Is that possible?
Yeah, if you want to show for social media, you can go right ahead.
Well, since we're here, friends, okay, here at Shacknews on Twitch, if you didn't already know, if the conversation has not, compelled you to stay, I don't know what is. But if you're into Star Wars today, it's the episode for you. But really, every episode that we do here is going to be an episode for you, because if you like collecting Star Wars, you probably like collecting other things. This is retail therapy. You can follow, of course, Shacknews on Twitter and Instagram at Shacknews on Twitter. And, of course, Shacknews Media on Instagram, too. We're getting that thing up and running. Denny Von Doom is the man, the myth, the legend, in charge of all of that. And we got some ideas. And by ideas, I mean, I'm just shooting him things, and then he's just like, Rod, that's dumb. My idea is better. And I'm just like, let's do that. No, I'm kidding. It's an equal thing in the middle, but definitely follow us on there. Of course, follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe. It only helps out the channel. The VODs from today's episode are definitely going to go on over to our 2 YouTube channels handled by the wonderful, down here in the corner, Greg Brockleton Burke. Burke gets to work. And of course, we love him for everything that he does here. And he's also verified too. He's the only verified guy at Shacknews. Maybe 1 or 2.
Let's try the other one now since none of them left.
Yeah, I don't like that. We all got to get verified soon, or we're going to take grades away.
So,
I just made a meme, and they verified me.
So I used to be a picture framer, and I would just
oh my god,
frame shit for fun. So we have this like lovely like frame I found in the discount bin at work. It's got like a velvet like inner section. This has a navy blue mat on it with like a gold trim around the inside too. And I believe, I put like matted frosted glass on it to give it kind of a museum look as well.
That's super cool.
Yeah, this is one of, well, I mean, you can get this picture from like any print shop or whatever. I found it at a store in the mall.
Well, it's funny because you as you were showing that, I had found, just kind of scrolling through my phone, so I'm trying to find a photo on here of Of like I have one of the things I thought would kind of be cool is that vintage collection Jabba sail barge they did through Hasbro years back.
Oh,
you got that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I haven't opened it because I'm fighting myself on it. But like as I'm trying to go through and find there's a Star Wars Insider magazine I have where there's that same photo, which is just kind of funny because I mean they use that for a lot. I know I had a poster as a kid that my mom had gotten for me from like the post office that was like that as well. I was gonna say the only thing I could do is if I were to disconnect on here and call back on my phone video wise, I could show you guys some of the collection downstairs if you want.
Do it.
Well, if you have images or video.
I could do.
He's gonna
I
call
can
on
do video.
via Discord, yeah, and then kind of give us a tour.
Yeah, so I could do like that.
Yeah, let's give that a try. In the meantime, I'll just show off some more of these. We got this Jango Fett right here. I don't know. I have so many of these things. I don't want them anymore. It's weird. Like they were like on my wall for years. Now
How did you put them on your wall? Did you like do the command strip thing and then just kind of take them down carefully?
No, put a thumbtack like right there where the hammer hook is. Man, SP4 and JN99. Oh my god, the head fell off one of these robots.
Oh no!
SP4 and JN99. Oh no. Maybe I can get it back up there. How does that happen? Bet this was worth like thousands of dollars before. We could take a look. We can look on eBay. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do that.
I've been trying. I have a bunch of episode 2 and episode 3 stuff. I've been trying to sell for years, and just it's like they've lost value. They've actually gone down in value, which is weird. So you're losing money. They were the opposite of investments. And
Okay.
They made too many. So you have to find like the really weird one that they recalled, or the one they only made like Adam said, like 50 of, and like those are the ones that are worth money. Otherwise, they have to sit in a box for 50 years, and then they accumulate some value
Well,
after that.
I don't know. They've tripled in value. I paid like $5 for this, and now it's worth 15.
Okay, I'm googling it. What am I googling, boss?
I already looked it up. We got it.
Oh.
You already looked it up.
I'm too late. My
Yeah,
fingers
all
aren't
right.
fast enough.
Adam,
Adam's
can you
in his
hear us?
basement.
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
We can. We can confirm.
Okay.
Can you go landscape?
Yes, and I'll go landscape as I flip the camera too.
Holy crap!
So, if I start down over here, you can see some things like this is not the original Kenner Falcon. It's the original Kenner Falcon mold, but this is it's re-released back in 2004. I do have an original Kenner Falcon, but it's in a bin. Back there, this is a solo Falcon that they released in back 2018. It's here just because I would put it there. I don't really like it that much, but this Falcon is what they used to call the BMF. People would say it stands for the big motherfucker, but it's for the big Millennium Falcon. And this one has like pretty accurate like sizing for like the cockpits that you can end up seeing. You can put in 4 different figures in here and stuff like that. This probably is like my favorite. My favorite ship that I have because there's so many different fun, cool features with this version of the Falcon. Even like you go inside here and you have like this is the smuggling holds and stuff like that. You have the Jarek table over there, and I think the license sounds may still work on some of this, or actually looks like it's been turned on still, so I'm not sure. I'll give it a shot, see if I press this and this will still work. Yeah.
Oh,
So, like,
that's so dope.
Holy fuck!
Yeah, this is probably like my favorite like thing that I have. But
How much is it going to cost me to get one of those?
so they did a re-release for this Falcon a year or so ago, and it was like $350, I think, retail.
Okay.
So to try to find it on eBay, if you search up like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Millennium Falcon, Hasbro, you'll see what it's maybe going for currently. But like, yeah, so
Looking
like
it up.
over, like so like you can
Oh
see there's-
my lord! It's about
Yeah.
like $700, like unopened, still like in the actual shipment box. I'm seeing,
I see one
Unboxed.
right now for 500.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just buy
like
it now.
it's hard to find when some of those things come out. Like I kind of wish I had just bought one just to have one, but like, so I collect a lot of different things, whether it's like this or some shoes, and I recently got back into collecting a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which was a mistake, but I'm happy about it somewhat. But I'm also like, damn. So yeah, there's just a lot of different things to kind of find and hunt down. You can't. I was going to try to see where I put that Jabba sail barge, and I know it's actually back here behind all of this stuff. What I can show you though too is this right here is the box for the Razor Crest from Mandalorian. This is the other HasLab project. This again is where I just haven't opened that, but like basically the way these bins run and work out is that like most of the more newer and recent stuff is up here closer to the front, unless it's been opened. Like these are two Imperial shuttles. This is the original Kenner one, and this is like a re-release from 2003. But everything that goes back here on most of these is unopened figures. But then you do have stuff like this is full of open vehicles. This is full of like Star Wars miniatures from Wizards of the Coast. They did that kind of back to like 03 to...
Is that like HeroClix sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's like so because it's for like this little like I can't remember what the exact name of the game was, but then you can see here's like some Revenge of the Sith like action figures that are still in the package. All the Episode 2 ones that she was showing off that I know of are kind of further back there, because if you look back, you can just see that's
like 10 feet of Star Wars toys.
I want to see the vehicles. Can we see the vehicles?
Yeah. Here, let me. What I'll do is I'll start with.
Yes. Oh my God.
So
AT-ATs.
Yeah. So this is the one that's in the same mold as the original Kenner one, but it's not. This one's from 2006. This was from 2012, where they did a new mold of the AT-AT that's supposed to be more like in scale, of course. On top of that, it's like this is one of the ATTEs from the Clone Wars. But you would see this, you could put multiple different clone troopers in here. I have one that's still sitting up in the gunner's array. And just kind of chilling. I do have the Naboo Starfighter here as well, too. And beneath that, I have I got a great deal on this like rubies full Darth Vader suit that's from I think someone returned it to Target, and so the thing kept on knocking down in price. So I got like that $1,000 costume for like $30. That's when my cats just hit the Falcon, but I got that costume for like $300. But I know it's like $1,000 suit.
Wait, let's go back to the kitty cat for a minute here. Hold on.
Look at them.
Millennium Falcon right there. Hey, kitty. Are you being a good kitty cat?
Trying not to cause as much trouble as possible, I suppose.
Do your cats have Star Wars names?
One of them does. One of them is I named. They're two girls, so one of them is named Rey, but then the other one is named Rose, not for the Last Jedi Rose, but for Derek Rose, because of my love of like.
Because the Titanic.
And stuff like that. Let me see here. You want to see vehicles, so I can kind of go into one of these. Actually, you talked about the Rancor earlier. Here's a Rancor here too.
I love you, Rancor. Misunderstood.
That's not the HasLab,
right?
Adam?
Say that again?
That's not the HasLab one, right? That one's not out yet.
No, the HasLab one's not even going to get made because it didn't get get back. Yeah.
That's sad.
The last two HasLab projects that have been Star Wars related have not been backed. The 6-inch scale Rancor and the Reva Inquisitor lightsaber, Force Effects lightsaber, are not being made. But the only two HasLab Star Wars projects they've made have been the Razor Crest and the Jabba sail barge.
Man. Why do you think that is? Do you think people just aren't collecting as much, or
oversaturation? Star Wars.
I think it's the fact that the Star Wars fans are very much for the price of the Rancor, they wanted something more bang for their buck, because the tier systems of the additional things you would get the math wasn't mathing, to say the least. And so I think fans are of the mindset like, well, if I'm going to back this project, I want to make sure I'm backing it and actually getting some return on getting the extra things I want, because with the HasLabs thing, I think part of the thought process fans have is that like, well, if you give me right tiers that go along with this for trying to back this item, yeah, I'll buy it simply because you won't make that figure unless I back this project. But the thing is that I don't think that the Rancor had enough good tier systems to it. And then the Force Effects lightsaber, I think it was just one of those things where I was like, it was cool, but not enough people, I think, cared for it, because there was no additional tier system to go, well, if we get this many backers past the limit, we'll reveal this, and we'll also send you this, we'll also send you this. Like with the sail barge, for example, the additional things, if it got so many people to back it, was like, you get a new version of Jabba, you get a new version of Jabba's throne dais, you get a new version of the Salacious Crumb, a Yak Face figure. Like, all those things kept on like being unlocked as more and more people backed the barge, and it gave an incentive. Whereas these other things, they haven't really incentivized you to do it. It was the same thing with the Razor Crest. The Razor Crest had like 5 or 6 different tiers of additional things, and the Razor Crest, like, honestly, had so many backers that it probably could have just been a non-HasLab project, but it worked out. It was also very funny that around the time that the Razor Crest got backed and fully funded, and the campaign was ending, the spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen that episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian, but the ship got destroyed, I think the same week in the show that it got backed. So some fans are like, well, damn, I'm really happy I backed it, because they're definitely not going to go make it now, because it's not going to be his ship and his vehicle of choice. I'll try to see. I'm going to flip this around here to show you in case there's anything in here you want me to pull out of these different vehicles. There's a Sandcrawler. It's in here. Most of the stuff in here is like prequel era stuff, though. There is an old Slave 1, though, in here, too. Let's see. This is the wings to it, or the fins are down on the side, but this is still that same. A lot of times, when they re-release stuff that came from Kenner, they still had those same molds, and so sometimes they've made like a new mold. Like back upstairs in my office, I have unopened the new mold for the Slave 1, and it's slightly bigger, and has like some more seating in the cockpit for pilots and stuff, but also you're able to have, like, I think the back ramp come down and open up, so there's a little more like play features to it in that way. But yeah, there's so much stuff down here. It's like I could go down here and go through memory lane for like years.
I'm gonna grab another thing I remembered. I have a vintage TIE Fighter figure.
Let's see.
Ooh.
Yeah, hold on, let me grab that.
I want to find an old set that I had as a kid too. I vividly remember having this and playing it until I broke it, because that's usually what I would do with my toys. Oh God, where's it at?
Toys are meant to be played with, so that's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Wait.
But it is weird. No, Adam's right. Like, it is weird. Like, the stuff that's worth money is that oddball stuff that, the re-release that they only did, like, that 1 year from whatever mold. Like, because some of the stuff, even the 1970 stuff, is on here for like $50. Like, it's not. It has to be pristine condition, sealed in box, possibly graded for it to be worth the thousands of dollars that people are assuming it's worth. Otherwise, it's worth pennies. Like, I'm looking at a ton of like 1979 Millennium Falcons or 70, like, and they're like $15, $30. Like, they're like destroyed to hell. Like, they're just beat up. 1983, excuse me. Yeah, they're just beat to hell. Like, that's the thing. Like, they have to be in perfect shape. And like, if you can find a toy from the 80s in perfect shape, that even in storage, there's deterioration, and sun damage or dust or whatever. So it's really difficult.
Dust is a real killer that people I feel like don't talk about enough. Like, dust will actually destroy your favorite paint. It will destroy your favorite cards, anything, man.
Check this out.
Interceptor.
This time,
I love
this
that.
is the wings pop off, like it explodes. They're spring loaded.
It's the battle
there's
damage.
a little
Yeah.
red. I mean, I doubt it works, but there's like little red light down here that would blink. But like, yeah, this is from my childhood. I've had this. It's felt on. It's gone.
I love that.
But yeah,
That's clean.
this is,
How much does that go for these days?
I don't know. Probably Greg. Greg wants to shit on my parade. Go right ahead, Greg. It's only worth $5.
No, it's something I realized because I collected toys for
find
years,
out.
and like I've gotten rid of a lot of them. But like toys take a long time to accumulate value based on how many they make. It's like the pop game. Pop's a good example. Like they make millions of pops, but of those millions, there's gonna be 200 that are worth something. Because like it's those, we only made 50 of this. This is only available at Comic-Con. Only made 100 of this. It's the numbers thing. And as you wait longer, when they make like 100,000 or a million Falcons, it takes a while for those to get destroyed and thrown out and gone missing to accumulate big number of values.
So this is
just
Right.
takes,
about
that's why I think
100.
with toys it takes a little bit longer.
I mean, this is worth like maybe $150.
That's good though.
Yeah, I'd say too, like, you know, to your point though as well. Like this is a power droid that this is released like maybe earlier this year. You see that I ended up paying a little extra for it. It's $24, but like this power droid that released recently is probably one of the harder to find figures from that wave. And again, it's like the value of it's higher than like a lot of the others from that same wave because not a lot of people like they didn't put many, like it wasn't duplicated in like a wave release while also being just really obscure. But people really want that. If that's a specific thing they're looking for, they can only find. That's what they end up trying to do, and trying to get to their best of their ability.
Yeah, those chase variants are what people are after. Well, so a long time ago, I worked at Target, and one day we got and I worked in the toy department. We got a shipment of Star Wars toys in. And I was like, oh, sweet. And like, I actually was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna buy some of these. And like, I had them out, and like, one of the upfront managers comes in, and he's like, oh, those new Star Wars toys come in. He straight up like goes through the box, grabs every chase variant, and like has a customer that he was like hooking up on the regular with that stuff. So,
Man,
like, that's not uncommon either. Like, people will straight up come in and bribe you for shit. You know?
That's facts. Because we, Adam will tell you, we worked at the mall forever for, at least a little under a decade. And, like, the amount of people who are just selling shoes, off to the side or, like, ruining releases before, like, stuff even came out. There's, like, people who've been standing in line for, like, a day. Literally, like, a full day. Who don't even know that by the time they get to the front, half the size is already gone because their boys at the barbershop or some shit needs them. It's so messed up, man.
But nepotism exists anywhere. I can't complain too much, because I had the hookup when I worked at the toy department. Like,
Sure.
I got so many Furbies the year that Furbies came out. I sold a bunch, like bought Christmas presents.
Yeah, it's just something that happens when you're in that situation. That when the Rick and Morty sauce came out, like people were just taking the boxes home, the employees, to sell them because they were going for like $15 per one sauce pack. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this Pokemon thing comes going to be the same thing. Like those employees are going to grab all those cards and just take them home and sell them at third party because they're worth money to somebody.
Yeah, but on the same time, if people were paid a better wage, a fair wage, they wouldn't be having side hustles and stuff like that. So, really,
That's
if you
also
want to
true.
blame everyone, you can blame corporations that create false scarcity of products in order to drive up market demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's supposed to be like fun ends up just being a competitive scalping market for adults. That's the thing. It was fun at one point, I think, and then now it got people look at the value more than the thing, and they just buy it. That's why my friend who owns the comic store, he won't sell like massive amounts of Pokemon cards to adults because like then he has nothing for the kids to buy, so he'll just turn them down. I was like, I'm not going to sell you my complete everything because I won't have any packs to sell to the kids because they're just looking for that chase card. They'll spend the 8 boxes to find that one chase card.
Yeah, I think when I was grabbing cards for Blake and I, we had a limit where it was like you could only do 4 or 5 Pokemon-related items. So, like, it could be as messed up as somebody would come in and do like 5 Elite Trainer boxes. And I'm like, well, damn. Like, so I would just do like 2 packs for me and then like whatever for Blake and then I'd get the hell out of there. But yeah, it's messed up.
Even when I go in, like, I don't buy. Yeah, I try not to buy out everything, but you know, sometimes there's like usually by the time I get anywhere for anything, it's slim pickings. Like, there's people that pay attention to like delivery routes and things like that, and like willing to wait in line or like fight over this stuff, and I'm just not into it. Like, I used to be really into Star Wars and stuff like that, but honestly, I mean, at this point, like, the fandom has burnt me out a lot. Like, you can't have I feel like it's really hard to have a civilized conversation about Star Wars nowadays, right? Like, because people get, like, aggressively positive or negative, and I feel like a lot of times, like, I don't feel like following anything blindly is good. And, like, it gets to a point where it's, like, a religious indoctrination for some people. And I'm just like, wow, like, you know, from a film standpoint, I didn't like the middle movie in this latest trilogy, right? I just didn't.
Which one was that again?
We don't speak of it. We don't speak of the name here.
I don't know. The Rian Johnson one. Like, I just thought it wasn't a good put together movie in general. But like people will be like, "You're a rat bastard" for that or something. And then like the movie after it, the final part of the trilogy was confusing as hell. And like I was just like, what the hell is going on here? And like so much of it.
They went in without a plan for this new trilogy. They had no plan. They didn't have a overarching story they wanted to tell. They just came in and just pounded it out.
Well,
and the Rian Johnson film.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the reason being, it was just like, I feel like some people are just like, well, you're a bastard, man, for thinking that or something. And it's like, well, I mean, I can still love Star Wars and not like every aspect of it, right? And I think it's good to be critical of things that you like, but there's also people like Greg that are just ready to murder everybody all the time. Yelling, old man yells at the cloud. Yeah. Well, you know,
I think that second movie is incredible because like it's culturally significant because it divided the fan base in half, and like that's really crazy when something like that happens. When you make something that has a dedicated fan base and you divide it right down the middle, that's like I almost feel that's what he wanted to do. Like he's like, I'm gonna divide this. I'm gonna treat Luke like shit and divide it, and then that way, you know, like I'll create all this confusion and people will remember me for it or something like that. I don't know why, but yeah, it's crazy.
Well, there's also like a lot of like testing like a person's like fandom of certain things, because like when I go to like MomoCon or like any of the other conventions, and I know you guys have been to a billion times more conventions than I have, so I know you guys have dealt with this too, but like you meet somebody and it's like, oh man, I really liked the new Spider-Man or something. Oh yeah, you did, but did you like that missing deleted scene where Green Goblin and Spider-Man met way earlier, but they decided to cut it out? And it's just like, nah, I didn't. It's like, oh yeah, see, you probably don't even know. And then they just like kind of, I mean, I hate to use the term like kind of mansplain, but they're kind of just like, you know, kind of testing your fandom of certain things. And it's just like, it's super fucked. I hate it.
Well, what I find crazy is I think the Star Wars fan base, which is honestly the most like toxic fan base, and I feel like that's, I mean, I feel like you probably, anyone that this is in any fan base that they're really big in, they feel like their fan base is probably the worst. But like I've been to now the last 2 Star Wars celebrations, and I just find it so funny that, you know, online it's just so like everyone's at each other's throats, but then in person it's like, oh yeah, that's cool, oh that's what you like, oh cool, I didn't really like that, I like this, or like it's a lot more civil. But I think it's also the fact that like what's funny is it's like, you know, when people can hide behind a computer screen, they'll say whatever they want. But it is interesting too, because I have like I think like the one anime convention I've been to, it is funny how like there is the openness of like, I'm going to tell you everything I hate about the thing that you like, or I'm going to do everything I can to tell you that you do not know enough about this certain thing to even hold a conversation with it.
Yeah, like there's always that. I hate that. I'm like, dude, how come we just can't meet in the middle and both like when I came over, we talked about Marvel. Like we had differences in opinions on like, what was it, Miss Marvel or something? Like, wasn't really a fan of like the hijinks high school thing, but like, you know, whatever, or like anything. Like, for instance, Daredevil's probably going to get redone again. You know, like he's Daredevil, then he's showing up to She-Hulk, and it's just like, am I going to miss the grittier, you know, Daredevil, or am I going to fall in love with like the happy-go-lucky Disney-fied Daredevil? Like, but the fact that like there's certain people at these conventions that I can't even meet in the middle, like,
Yeah.
It's so weird. People take on like this fandom culture and they let it sometimes kind of run their entire existence. Now, obviously, if you enjoy something and you like it, of course, wear it as a badge of honor. Like, hey, I'm a nerd, and being a nerd just means that it took a little bit more time and effort to like this thing I liked, but I'm in it for the long haul. But like, obviously, don't follow it blindly. But also, in that same turn of breath, like, don't also gatekeep and make it difficult for other people to get on it. Because the last thing we need are people who have been in it forever shitting on people who are just like, I just like the way the lightsaber noises sound, like when they, hit things and hit each other.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think there's different levels. I think like some people need you to know that like the like alien sitting in the background of like the first cantina scene is Graz Mothlar, and he's from Snarlack 7. And if you don't know that, are you a real fan? Really? If you don't know every little thing, like I hate. It's tough. I get like Star Wars is so ingrained in everybody's childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just about everyone like, and now it is generational now too. Like you either grew up with the prequels, or you grew up with this latest trilogy, or you grew up with the original trilogy, and like so it's like it's tied to their identities, and then they're like try and like make it like Star Wars means the most to me. Right? And it's like, no, we all had bad childhoods, and we were all raised by media. We were all raised on the same pop culture. Like, your childhood trauma that you have tied to Star Wars is not any more or less important than anyone else's trauma. You know what I mean?
Smart.
Like, I have no qualms about the concept that I am probably buying back my childhood when I go and buy it.
You're cutting out a little bit, boss.
Well, maybe to you, but my mic is still good. So, yeah. But, it's just, I wish people could just be more friendly about it. And I also think, like, we're sitting here going through, like, boxes of toys and stuff, but, like, Star Wars products, you can get, I think, like, the thing that got me was, like, the waffle maker. When, like, they put out a Death Star waffle maker, I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't keep up with this. Is that it right there? Is that the waffle maker?
No, I don't. But it's funny because the one thing I did grab to show, because it's intrinsically linked to like the two biggest things I'm fans of in being Star Wars and Adidas and Derrick Rose, is that they did a Star Wars collaboration with Adidas a couple years back, and one of the shoes they did was a D Rose shoe. And so the thing is, like, you open this box up and you have like this like lithograph thing where it has like Luke's lightsaber and Vader's lightsaber on here, because all the shoes they released in this pack were a part of like what they call the lightsaber pack. And so like they went through all this big stuff where they have like this cool like storytelling pieces behind it, and then you have a shoe where like this one's much more subtle than like there's like some Darth Vader NMDs and like Yoda and NMDs, but this shoe is meant to be like Luke's lightsaber. So you have like the blue to it, and you have the silver, and the heel cup is meant to be like the lightsaber hilt itself. You have like Star Wars branding on like this lace lock there. There's Arabic lettering, which is the lettering in Star Wars that's here on the back that I forget what this Arabic says. I used to, when I was younger, I remembered how to read Arabic, but I really stopped using that skill, so I have no clue what that says anymore, unless I go and look it up. But yeah, then it has all this like different like words and stuff inscribed in here. That some of it says Star Wars, and there's like, but again, a lot of it's in Arabic lettering as well too. And so like you said, like it's crazy to see when Star Wars as a brand can cross the boundaries of different products. But like there's cereals, there's fruit snacks, there's there's like I know I have some Campbell's chicken noodle soup that's like Star Wars themed. Like it's everywhere,
Which is also super ironic because it's everything George Lucas didn't want it to become.
And so like, I don't know.
The whole series.
I don't know.
Doing that back when it was out, like there's a picture of Anthony Daniels from the '90s. This is like in the height of stuff where it's a box of C-3POs. It's a C-3PO cereal, and that was something that George I will say that I always find it like it's interesting in the mindset of like our culture currently, at least now, that there seems to be like this forgotten period of time where like people thought Disney was the world Wars thing for Star Wars. No, people used to. George sold Star Wars because people absolutely hated everything he did with Star Wars. They hated the Clone Wars. They hated the prequels. They hated the fact that he would, sell and like the Jar Jar like lollipop thing. That's
the Jar Jar lollipop tongue.
Yeah, like that. Like those are all like Lucas things that he did, but there's genius to it because he knew. Like what's interesting about Lucasfilm as a company too is that when Lucasfilm was ran by George, it would go into like let's say if it was a public traded company and there were stockholders involved, they would lose their mind because they would go into the negative all the time in creating certain things. But George knew that he could recoup it because of how well it would sell. Like the Clone Wars cartoon series that he did from 2008, so that they just recently finally finished with bringing it back on Disney Plus and doing one final season. That first season or two that he made, those episodes, I think the budget per episode was like $1 million an episode, and he was going into the negative to make those episodes because he was paying it all out of pocket and out of the company's money, and it wasn't without an immediate return on investment that he wouldn't get for 1, 2, or 3 years. But he knew that once he launched it and then he did the branding for it and he sold the rights to it to go on Cartoon Network and like all these sorts of things, he knew he would recoup the money, and so he did. But that's why when Disney got the license, Disney got the property and they canceled the Clone Wars animated show originally back in 2014, it was because they literally couldn't justify supporting to fund it because it was too expensive a show to make. But only someone like George, who saw the vision for it, would do it. George, digital filmmaking, their theaters didn't have digital projectors. So when George was making Attack of the Clones and he wanted to be the first film that was shot completely digital, he bought for the theaters nationwide digital projectors so that they would show the film. And he started that's how he helped usher in that age. But that's the thing again where it's like, as a company, you look at if it's publicly traded or something like that, and you have investors are like, no. But when you're that spearhead, that single figure at the top, it's your money, it's your company, you'll do whatever you want.
Yeah,
but
and he made a ton of money to begin with because he was smart enough to recognize the licensing potential of the series to begin with, and he held on to the marketing rights of the original trilogy. Nobody the companies, the production companies, they didn't care about that shit. They were like, all right, man, whatever. Good luck with that. And but then the Kenner toys popped off like crazy, right? And you started seeing
toys, all the Marvel comics at the time, the initial runs there, and I think it's kind of funny when you look at even he had commissioned a novel from I think it was Alan Dean Foster called Splinter of the Mind's Eye that was meant to be the sequel to Star Wars because he thought, okay, it's not gonna make enough money. I want to tell a follow-up story, so I'm gonna make this book and sell the rights to make this book and to make profit off it. We'll see what happens. And again, that just spearheaded all these different things. And so he's, from a business standpoint, genius, But I think there's a lot of times like you were saying kind of earlier where there's things that we love and we're passionate about, but we either sometimes over mystify it or hold it so holy that anything less than how we reverently participate in it feels like a bastardization of it almost,
Mm.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. One of the things I love speculating on stuff. I love talking about fan days and things like that. I feel like there's no room for that in Star Wars a lot of times, which is unfortunate. Yeah, but I agree. I do with you. I feel like it is one of the more toxic fandoms out there. I think it's maybe the ones that I'm aware of are basically gaming and Star Wars. But yeah, there's the consumer aspect is also just so. It's just if you're a hardcore collector of Star Wars stuff, man, like you seem to be, there's a lot out there. And there's that completionist urge, and I feel like that's a battle you just can't win with Star Wars.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there's no way to win that battle. The only thing that you can decide to complete maybe is if you decide to stick to one thing and you really do everything in your power to try to keep up to date with everything that comes out of it. But like, even I found that there's a huge there's a big part of the fan base that just likes collecting the Star Wars novels. And I never really kind of knew that, but like, there's, when you get into that point of it, there's like, you know, well, which edition do you have? Is it first edition of this novel or not? Is it the, since Disney took over the license, what is funny is that there's Barnes & Noble usually has an exclusive hardcover compared to every other place. But like, if it's a big novel that's tied into like one of the movies coming out, like they had like the Journey to the Force Awakens or Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker line of books.
Yo, people sleep on like how much collectible stuff you can find at Barnes and Nobles. Like people are through.
Shut up, Rod. I was just there yesterday and had a shit ton of books.
Is there any left? I remember that they were going out of business when I lived in LA.
That's why I got those Yu-Gi-Oh cards from the other day.
There are two left. I know that. I know a lot of them shut their doors though.
No, there's two within like a 15-minute drive, at least. Yeah, I can think of more, but yeah, they're gonna be blowing up my spot now, Rod.
I can think of more, but I can't release it to you because I need the other ones to be held sacred.
Yeah, no, I didn't buy any of the Pokemon cards. That's good. But like no other stuff. Like I bought a like two like $6 Gundam bottle kits last night at Barnes & Noble. Yeah, they do have a like interesting amount of like collector stuff there now.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's kind of built up and become like that ever since Toys R Us closed, because I feel like every place tried to get in and try to fill the gap that Toys R Us was leaving. And so it's been interesting to see that, because especially like you look at a place like, I've seen it more in Target than I have in Walmart, but like how they've expanded their toy section and their trading card section. And then they have like high-end toys that they put back in like the movie section. It's just very like interesting how it's just kind of changed and developed. And I also think that some of that has to do as well with, I think, how interest of different mediums and forms of like media that people like expanded during the pandemic, even, because I feel like anime really probably had this big resurgence and cultural switch in America in like the last 3 or 4 years. I feel like a lot of it during the pandemic, because people that didn't want to watch these shows, mainly because maybe like length, were like, oh, okay, well, I have more time now, or I'm at home all the time anyway, I'm gonna turn this on and watch this. But then it gave these fandoms like this big like push that then like now you go in stores and you see like toys that are being made by, you know, different companies I never thought would like even touch those brands. And it's kind of interesting, you know.
Yeah, well, and to your point about that too, like, I almost feel like we're in a day and age where like IRL shopping is gonna like cease to exist. I mean, I would hate to use obviously where we're from as a good example of this, but like a lot of our malls locally are dying. And like I'm almost inclined to believe that Cyber Monday in a lot of regions of the world, at least in this country, is more of a big deal than Black Friday is, like just in terms of getting out and shopping. And like I think of like what's happening like with Best Buy in conjunction with like them versus like Amazon and like online shopping, or just even like the electronics section at Walmart, like what that used to look like when we were kids or just younger people versus like what it looks like today. And with Toys R Us kind of like jumping out of the mix, like it just feels like it's kind of almost opened up the door for collectors to now, instead of like sectioning themselves off at Toys R Us or KB Toy Store, they can hit these places like Target and Walmart and like these big mega corporations now and really like hit the ground running. But even that, with how crazy all of our fandoms are starting to become, like, I mean, the average person just doesn't want to do Black Friday all year. Like they barely want to do Black Friday now, but imagine everything that releases, there's a line or a scalper or something that you're going to have to deal with.
I mean, that's where we're at now. It's been like that for a while. That's just how it is. Like, you know, but that's what, I mean, the people making this stuff want, man.
Shelf space is a big issue, which is why you get that. I hate this exclusivity with Walmart and Target. One, because like Adam and Rod are saying, you can't find them because scalpers grab them all. Especially they get that year of exclusivity only at Target, only at Walmart, only wherever. And then like you have to wait, and then finally when it's available online, the people who can get it can get it. But otherwise, I mean, I've seen pictures of people carrying like just whole carts of one action figure. When the real Ghostbuster stuff hit Walmart, it sold out instantly, and people were just scalping the crap out of it, and you couldn't get it anywhere else but Walmart until a year later when they actually put it on Hasbro's Pulse's website. Like that's what they do. They market it out exclusivity because of shelf space. They get that big lump sum up front, and then that year you have to wait a year to get what you want.
How cozy is that Tauntaun sleeping bag, Asif? Asif bought the Tauntaun sleeping bag and has a Darth Vader toaster. And I want to know if the Tauntaun sleeping bag is cozy.
I should find out myself too, because I have that downstairs. I bought that from GameStop too recently.
I've thought about buying it before. I just don't think I'd fit in it, honestly. I'm a big boy. I need a big sleeping bag.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, Adam. If obviously you are very heavily invested into like the Star Wars culture and fandom, and I mean, obviously, all of us in this call have a little bit more skin in the game just in life than you do, but obviously your fandom has transcended pretty much all the generations of Star Wars. Where would you like to see it go as like the person you are at this age, but also stepping aside out of that, like just a fan of the actual culture itself?
Culturally wise, I think there's so much Star Wars stuff that comes out that I think that we were talking earlier about, like in terms of conversation, you can't dislike something and feel like you can't. Sometimes you feel like you can't voice that. / you either can't like something and voice that without receiving like a lot of hate. And I think it'd be cool to see just more empathy in terms of like conversations with people and seeing like where, like, understanding like just because media impacted you one way doesn't have to mean it impacted a same person another way. And having some openness to that. And in terms of like, where I think I want to see the brand, the storytelling go, I hope Star Wars never gets to the point where they're pumping out as much yearly content as Marvel does currently. Because I kind of talked to you about the fact that like I enjoy Marvel. Marvel's never been like my big thing, but I'm at the point now where how much is pumped out on Disney Plus. Like I looked at, I think I talked about last year, my number's going to be off on this because it's either 10 or 11 separate Marvel projects came out last year that were a part of the MCU.
But
and that's that kind of like hour-wise,
Yeah. I hear that a lot about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you know what? I'm a comic book fan. If you go to a comic book shop, you see everything that Marvel's publishing on a monthly basis, right? There's a lot of little one-shots, a lot of little mini-series. I feel like that's part of comics. You have the big ones, right? Like the heavy hitters, like Thor and the Avengers and stuff like that, or the X-Men. And then you got these little one-shots, or these smaller superheroes like Howard the Duck, or She-Hulk, or Moon Knight. And like, I love those things. I love those series. These are the characters that I've always been interested in rooting for. She-Hulk in particular, I'm a big fan of. And I love that these characters get more of a spotlight. And it, to me, feels like you're just taking the comic book formula and you're moving it over to something that's a little more massively marketable, right? Something you can get in front of a lot more people, because you, like, older people don't really read comics, but maybe they'll watch She-Hulk. Kids that never heard of She-Hulk might be interested.
That's fair.
I think like Marvel is also trying to use these shows as like for representation as well. Like I'm not gonna get too deep into that because I'm like some fat white dude with a beard on the internet. There's plenty of me's out there spouting their opinions. But I mean, like, seeing that they actually made Moon Knight Jewish meant something to me, because there aren't a lot of Jewish superheroes out there, right? Like, I've got Kitty Pryde tattooed on my arm. It's like her and Magneto and the Thing and like Magneto's kids, and like that's really it as far as like I think Jewish representation, like superhero culture, right? So like things like I that stuff feels cool to me, and it's a chance for these smaller characters that can't carry a movie that can carry a TV show to do something cool.
Do you think that in Star Wars, like with Marvel, like there's a lot more free reign to like make one-off stories, like for instance, like Morbius. Like Morbius is kind of in the MCU, but it also kind of exists in its own separate thing. I know, but like with Star Wars, it feels like everything is kind of tied into one. And when they tried like the Solo film, I was like, you know, I like the risk that they took. I thought, you know, using Donald Glover and a lot of different style actors like Paul Bettany and stuff for that film was dope, but it seemed like it didn't hit. Like, does it feel like in Star Wars, if it's not in the streamlined, this matters because this thing matters because this thing matters, does it just not hit the same or something?
Well, in my opinion, I think that there's a couple of different things I'm gonna try to concisely touch on with that. To go to your question, I think Star Wars can do that, but I think it depends on it because of how Star Wars storytelling is, how the fandom is. You have to find the right medium in which to tell that story. I believe the biggest issue that Solo really faced was the fact that everyone loves Harrison Ford, so you're having to live in Harrison Ford's shadow. And then people were upset about The Last Jedi still. But I don't even want to blame that so much as being the issue, as I think the real issue was that I don't know why they did it this way. But when you released Solo, you were trying to do a celebration. They were trying to basically, I think, tie it into the 40th anniversary of A New Hope in some ways. But you released Solo in May, in between Infinity War,
and Deadpool
2.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bad release window. And also, we had just seen a Star Wars movie 5 months prior. Star Wars, the way I think if they had released that movie in December, for example, where literally there was a huge gap there that year even, where stuff had been released and then come out, you could have made more money. It would have been more successful. We would have maybe seen more one-off stories like that. But again, the other thing too is I think those type of stories work better as a Star Wars TV show, because the fans that are going to like it and want to tune into it are going to tune in on a weekly basis, and they're really going to eat that stuff up. And going into that, you know, piece about like the representation part, but also talking about like how, you know, Marvel, you look at comics in the shop and like there's tons of comics that come out every month, and they're trying to adapt that form to this other art form of media. I believe that the issue in that comes into the fact that, like, for example, like a comic book, depending upon how fast I read and how fast I want to consume that content, I can. I can't really speed up a 25-minute episode or 30-minute episode of a show and then also try to, like, you know, then pull this character in. And there's the argument that some people have had where they felt like, you know, Multiverse of Madness doesn't necessarily seem to fully care about what happened in WandaVision. I don't want to necessarily get into that argument, but like for me, I agree. Like I like all the stuff that's come. I like that they're bringing out all these different shows. And if I was like Kevin Feige, I would still produce all these projects, but I would release them more slower throughout the year. So what I'm saying is that, like, I'd still bring out like all these different shows and cover these different things, but I wouldn't release as much of the content as quickly. Because of how the art form itself can be consumed, I think at some point you're going to create more burnout there, because that's just how I think movie-going audiences sometimes react.
Well, because in Star Wars too, like some of these stories are still being written. Like, I mean, obviously some of these are adaptations of things like from the novels and stuff, and like maybe loose retellings. But for the most part, like with over in Marvel, like She-Hulk has existed for a very long time. It makes sense that she's finally getting a fully fleshed out series as opposed to another 2-hour throwaway film. So like when people kind of play like the representation card or whatever that they want to dunk on her or like Moon Knight over, it's like, well, hold on guys, like they've been around for so long and they've missed a lot of films. Let them have a 10 episode something, where like with Star Wars, like some of these stories are brand spanking new, like within the new trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. So like we're being introduced to characters, and I feel like sometimes people are a little tough on Star Wars because they're like, oh, you're just playing into this or that. And it's like, well, hold on, that's not fair. Like they're just writing new stories for a cool fandom.
But also,
you're absolutely right.
At the same time, man, how many goddamn fucking times we gotta go to Tatooine, man? It's a fucking desert. You have a fucking universe. You got a whole fucking universe, right? Like I don't need Luke Skywalker showing up in anything, frankly. I just don't. I fucking don't. Like, I think that's
he's like their Wolverine.
I really, yeah. Basically, I think that's the problem Star Wars has. They have a vast universe. They have a rich history. They can go anywhere. They can tell any story they want. But they keep being like, remember Boba Fett? Remember Luke? Like, they were nailing it with the Mandalorian, frankly. Like they had a new they had a new little baby Yoda, right? They had a character that was like part of like one of the coolest like characters, like Mandalorians are dope. Mandalorians are just freaking cool. They're like their warrior codes, the history of like the planet that they like explore in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Like Mandalorians are super cool, and like those are two great examples of spin-offs that are great. Like especially Rebels. Rebels really did its own thing. It didn't need to be so self-contained. It kind of carried the story of Ahsoka Tano on, which is cool. Like Ahsoka Tano is, I think, the coolest character in Star Wars at this point.
And the thing is, though, is that I think the difference comes into the storytellers, because I think the biggest problem Lucasfilm has had with their storytelling has been they've been reactionary to what the fan base has set back, and I think that's caused issues in telling the story you want to tell. Because like, if Lucas, like, let's say if Ahsoka came out in 2015, Ahsoka would now be like put to the back of what people are looking at, because in 2008 people hated her. People hated her, thought she was annoying. We're like, oh my god, how does Anakin have a Padawan? Anakin doesn't have a Padawan. I've read the comics, I've read the novels, like all this stuff. But now she's one of the most beloved characters. But I remember, and there's probably maybe even a video of me talking about like when I was in 6th grade, talking about the fact that I was like, yeah, Ahsoka's kind of annoying, but like I think that's kind of the role she's supposed to be in right now. Because that's the other issue too, is I think as consumers of media sometimes, people don't understand that characters are meant to fit a certain mold or role within their stage in life at that time. A young teenage character, spunky teenage character that's been given to be the Padawan to the chosen one Jedi, of course is gonna think she's a little bit of a hot, like she's that person, and she's gonna think she knows better and all this other stuff. But that's part of, like, again, the genius of the storytelling. That's kind of what some younger people can be like at that point in their life.
Grow, like, as like the thing about Clone Wars is that it's a series that grows with its audience, and that's what they were trying to do with the prequels. Like, they're like, here's a little kid, so you're a little kid, and you see that's your view from the story, right? If you're a child watching that movie, that's who that movie is for. That was the intent, was to have a new trilogy we grew up with. It just works a lot better in the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars gets progressively darker and more intriguing, and then the ending is just fucking brutal. Like, that they put out like a year or so ago. Like, you're like, wow, it breaks your heart. Like, you see the you don't really see how war affects people in the other Star Wars trilogies, things like that. Clone Wars is like, here's the
be great.
Yeah,
because I think Andor's going to do the same thing, but in a live action format. We're showing that, like, to be a rebellion, to do what they did to rebel against the Empire and what they had to do to get to that point. Not a lot of it was pretty. Like, Forrest Whitaker's character Saw Gerrera, I think he is going to, like, showing like how his role and how he participates in that is going to be a lot of, like, just kind of darker things. But it's like, and that's the thing I do love about Star Wars, that, like, there is so many diverse opportunities for stories to be told, and I think that they're going to get better as they move forward with telling stories that touch on these different pieces, and be more broad in their storytelling. I don't think everything's going to connect back to the Skywalker so intrinsically as it sometimes does now. Because, like, I'm a person where it's like, I don't need more Luke, but I will say that every time I do see more Luke, I sit back there and I'm like, I feel like a little kid again, because I'm just like, that's my guy. Like, that's my hero right there that I grew up with. And it's like, I love that. But
I have a question really quick for you. Sorry not to cut you off, but Denny, he says, did y'all think Obi-Wan series ended up being interesting enough while filling in another void between prequels and original trilogy?
I thought Kenobi was a 6 out of 10 for myself, just because I enjoyed it enough, but it was one of those things where it was like, I thought a little bit of the execution could have been done better in terms of some of the filmmaking parts to it, and I didn't necessarily like all the storytelling choices they did, but, like, I had some friends that complain a lot for like, oh, Obi-Wan doesn't grow enough, or Vader doesn't grow enough, and I push back on that argument a little bit because I'm usually like, well, guys, again, this is a perfect example. Like, maybe don't do stories with legacy characters in between points in time where they're so intrinsically, they're going to end up here, and we left them here. And there's not a lot you can do in terms of character deep dive when there's two very strong fixed points between. Whereas, kind of like you were saying, Greg, about like the Mandalorian stuff like that, or not, Greg, you were saying about like the Mandalorian, like in terms of the storytelling there, and the differences in like how you can tell these new, fun, creative stories that are with these new characters that are fresh and exciting. That can be, I think, is a little bit better.
Yeah, the saying is like, my saying is like, Star Wars is best when it's not Star Wars, if that makes sense. Like, that's when it shines. And then when you start to go back and have Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and lightsabers and Ahsoka Tano, like that stuff it just doesn't sometimes work because they're preying too hard on nostalgia.
Look,
and becomes just like a nostalgia fix at that point.
We didn't need another Grogu. We didn't need another Grogu, and like they tried to do that with Obi-Wan, and it didn't work, and that kid couldn't run. So much running, and that kid just looks like so unenthused about it. And I mean, that's a small complaint, but just overall, I agree that like storytelling was wonky on it. It was just so that one thing can be done, where it's like, oh, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. Yeah, like just for that line. And
there's moments like that where I hear that, I go, hey, they spit it, bro. That was deep. But
that whole battle was dope. But then when you compare it to the original battle, that's just like him standing there, and they're like, ha, and you're like, come on, man. They're all both more powerful. Than, I don't know. I like Grogu though, Asif. We didn't need Solo. I agree with that. We didn't need to be like, oh, your name is Solo because you're not traveling with anybody. We didn't need like that's the Kessel Run. That's parsecs right there.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with Solo is it does feel like it's like, hey, everything you know about him, about a week.
Yeah.
A week of famousness.
Advertised Phasma as the new Boba Fett. The this generation Boba Fett.
Rod, you want to be young Mace Windu? You can be young Mace Windu, Rod.
Thank you. I'm getting ready to cut my hair again anyway, so let's do it.
Yeah. I would really like more Star Wars stuff that has nothing to do with anything that comes before it. Give me a new story with new characters. Plenty of Jedi out there. There's even stuff from the Dark Horse comics and stuff like that you can take. Yeah. But
I was gonna say, like, even darker storylines too. I've been a really big fan of like this, like the evil retellings of like Superman and like a few of the other comic book shows, or like evil story arcs. Yeah, all of that. Like, I just give me stuff from like different perspectives, and not from like, I don't want it so polarizing like Joker, for instance, where like we're gonna get the fifth or sixth Joker in the last like decade and a half. Like, I don't want another just like insane bad guy, but like I would like storylines either told from like the perspective of somebody who is not looked highly upon, or who has been like a throwaway character who maybe is walking a different path, and like to your point, Blake, that does not tie into what everybody wants it to tie into.
Yeah. Well, guys, I feel like this conversation could go on for the rest of the day, but we are a little over time at this point. So before we get going, first of all, thank you to my wonderful co-host Greg Burkleton-Burke, the video jerk, Rodney Connors Jr., and Adam, thank you for being here with us today. Adam, where can people go to check out all of your fandom?
So if you guys want to follow me on Instagram at Adam MVP Turner, that's my IG handle. It's easiest to reach out to me there and strike up a conversation. Over on YouTube, I'm known as a Crazy Black Man 108, where main stuff I've been doing over the last like 10 years has mainly just been Derek Rose shoe reviews. But I'm getting back into doing more of my Star Wars content now. I will be opening up some of this stuff and reviewing these things on my channel soon, so that's exciting, along with doing some Yu-Gi-Oh card pack openings and stuff like that, because I've fallen back into that rabbit hole. My bank account will never forgive me. So yeah, that's on YouTube, Crazy Black Man 108, and on Instagram, Adam MVP Turner.
Awesome, man. Adam, thank you so much for being here with us today. You have an extremely impressive collection. Part of me is jealous. Part of me is relieved to have some money saved up in the bank.
Understandable. Totally
yeah,
understandable.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me too.
No,
It was great to be on with you guys.
Dude,
This was a lot of fun.
This is a freaking blast, man. Obviously, we've all grown up with Star Wars, and it's nice that we could get together and have like a civilized conversation about stuff and just kind of share some love, but also get real about some shit. And with that, Rod, do you wanna do the social plugs, and then we'll play the Shot Pets trailer and we'll call it.
Let's do our social media plugs here, friends. You can follow Shacknews everywhere if you just Google Shacknews, all one word. We pop up literally everywhere. We're one of the coolest, if not the coolest and the bestest of the best when it comes to putting out content, news articles, reviews, just anything, you name it. Of course, retail therapy is a new thing that we've been doing here these last many months. And I got to tell you, friends, it has been an absolute blast. This has been a good way for all of us to kind of get together and just powwow about what makes us over here at Shacknews. We've done Pokemon cards, we've done sneakers, we've done figurines, we've done all types of stuff. And there's going to be more on the horizon here soon for everybody as well. So follow us, of course, on Twitter at Shacknews. We're verified on there. And Greg, too. We're working on it, Greg. We're all going to get verified one day. But Greg right there is leading the charge along with our official Shacknews account. We're also on Instagram as well. Don't look up at Shacknews. Look up at Shacknews Media. For all of us young people out there that like to scroll and look at pictures and videos and reels, you'll find some of me on there, too, opening up Pokemon cards. We got more stuff to open here, too. I brought some brilliant stars from Nebraska so I can have some content to do out here while I'm here. Yes. Be sure to follow us on Instagram as well. And of course, oh my goodness, look at Blake.
I got this ready to go. I think this will be next month, right? We're not doing the show this Saturday, are we? We're not. I don't think we're not. No.
I don't think so, but
we're
wow.
We're moving it. We're going to do 2 Wednesdays a month now.
Two Wednesdays
a month.
2 hump days, friends, to get you through that middle of the week hump. So, of course, we got the cool Monday show that I'm on. Of course, that gets you through the Monday blues. And right when we hit that middle point, boom, retail therapy. It's time to nerd out. And we're going to get you to the beautifulness that is the weekend, of course. And also, we like our own competitive-based format here as well, friends. I know if you just tuned in and you missed the cuteness that was Adam's cats, but they tuned in and they kicked it with us for a little bit. Very, very cute. Even more cute in person. I can hard confirm that. Be sure to download Shack Pets. It is the ultimate battle for cuteness. You think your fur baby is cuter than the next person's fur babies down the road? We look no further. There's a way that we can battle it out and we can prove it. We can walk the walk and we can talk the talk all together. Or if there's that cute person that you've been thinking about shooting your shot with and you're like, man, I don't know how to do it, but she has like the cool dog or something at the park, be like, hey, have you heard of Shack Pets? We should battle on here and maybe get to know each other a little bit better. We have these cool animals. Let's hang out. Our animals should be friends. Let's do it. Okay. There's so many ways we can spin this. I may have tried it once or twice. That might be where that story came from. Mind your business. But in the meantime, yes, please download that. Okay. It is completely free. If you have a smartphone, if you have a phone that's smarter than you, which should be all phones these days, head over to the store and download it. Okay. You will not be disappointed.
And with that, we actually got a little trailer for Shack Pets. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Retail Therapy. Don't forget to give us a follow and sub here on Twitch. In the meantime, have a great day, y'all. Here's the little Shack Pets. Shack Pets is not Tinder. Remember that. That is very important, Rod. Ha ha!